Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be answering a question I get asked quite often by people who are big MMA fans as well as the casual fans who don't fully understand mixed martial arts. Now, of course, we all know Joe Rogan as the longtime UFC commentator, stand-up comedian, host of Fear Factor, and of course as being the host of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Many people know that Joe Rogan has had a lifelong experience in martial arts, starting as a young kid in Taekwondo, as well as training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as an adult. Let's look into Joe Rogan's experience as a martial artist, starting from the time he started Taekwondo as a young kid in Massachusetts. Joe Rogan began martial arts at the age of 13. Within 2 years, he earned his black belt and soon became the Massachusetts full-contact Taekwondo champion for 4 consecutive years. At the age of 19, Rogan won the US Open Taekwondo Championship, becoming the lightweight champion. He then went on to beat both the middleweight and the heavyweight title holders. With these type of credentials, you see that Joe Rogan was very successful as a Taekwondo competitor. After Rogan's Taekwondo career was over, he went on to have 3 amateur kickboxing matches when he competed in a 3-fight, one-night tournament. He won his first 2 fights and lost in the finals by TKO. If anyone out there doubts Joe Rogan's ability to strike, look no further than watching a video of his turning sidekick on the bag. This kick is so powerful that it even touted one of the greatest UFC fighters in history, George St. Pierre, to say, quote, "Joe Rogan's kicks are the most powerful I have ever seen." Not a bad compliment from one of the greatest fighters ever. When it comes to the grappling side of training, Rogan explains that he wrestled 2 years while in high school, and it was some of the hardest training he ever experienced, even going as far as saying he truly didn't know what hard work was until he experienced traditional wrestling practices at around 15 years old. In 1996, Rogan began training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under the legendary Carlson Gracie at his school in Hollywood, California. He went on to train at multiple world-class gyms throughout the 90s, including training with Rickson Gracie and Jean-Jacques Machado. Rogan then met Eddie Bravo in the late 1990s while training at the Academy of Jean-Jacques Machado in Tarzana, California. The two went on to become friends. Rogan describes Eddie Bravo as being his best friend since around the year 2000. In 2003, Eddie Bravo landed one of the biggest upsets in grappling history when he submitted Royler Gracie with a triangle choke at the 2003 Abu Dhabi Combat Club in São Paulo, Brazil. He was only a brown belt at that time. He went on to lose the next match to the eventual winner of the 66 kilo class, Leo Vieira, but being the first American to ever submit the great Royler Gracie planted the seed that there may be something to this crazy style of jiu-jitsu that Eddie Bravo was using. After earning a black belt under Jean-Jacques Machado, Eddie Bravo opened his first jiu-jitsu school in Los Angeles. Bravo's style of jiu-jitsu was unconventional and different from what was being traditionally taught. He developed his style of jiu-jitsu to be trained without wearing a gi to further the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu in mixed martial arts. Bravo credits Rogan as the person to come up with the name 10th Planet. Once Bravo had his own schools, Rogan began training predominantly under Eddie Bravo as his head instructor. Joe Rogan received his black belt in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu from Eddie Bravo in June of 2012. He then received his black belt in gi jiu-jitsu from Jean-Jacques Machado 3 months later in September of the same year. Here is a quote from Rogan on his first impressions when he started training jiu-jitsu. "Jiu-jitsu was the ultimate revelation. I got owned," describing how he was ragdolled on the mat. "You have an idea in your head of who you are and what you can do, and then someone comes along and exposes it as bullshit. Now you have to do one of 2 things, run away from it or learn the solution." When Rogan was asked if he would have fought in the UFC had it been around when he was still competing in Taekwondo, Joe Rogan had this to say: "If I was competing still when the UFC was around, I probably would have done something. When I stopped fighting, it was in 1989. That was my last kickboxing fight I had. And there was nothing. There was no money in it. And I was getting headaches just from sparring. I did not spar smart. I sparred meathead style. I know a lot more today than I ever knew then, as far as consequences and what's important and how to learn better. I was good at being obsessed with things, just focusing on them constantly all the time. It was kind of frantic. It wasn't calculated and intelligent. There was essentially no way to have a career other than teaching. And so when I started to get into stand-up comedy, I realized, oh wow, I can make a living doing this. Like there's an actual real path. Like there's guys I know that make a living doing this. While everyone I know in fighting is broke or they're slurring their words, guys from the gym would be in gym wars and now they're all fucked up. They don't know where they parked their car. There was a lot of that shit that was scaring the fuck out of me. So taking into consideration all of these factors, I truly believe that Joe Rogan could have been a UFC fighter had he started in his prime when the UFC was just starting. He was a very high-level striker and competed in Taekwondo as well as kickboxing, but he was open enough to look into the other arts of grappling and wrestling. That to me proves that he didn't have an ego with his fighting abilities, and he wasn't going to remain the same. He wasn't that striker that avoids the clinch, grappling, takedowns, and submissions that are proven as a very necessary requirement to fight at a high level in the UFC and other major MMA promotions. Would he have been UFC champion? Who knows, the world will never know that. But I believe he had the potential to be a professional fighter in the UFC, most likely competing in the welterweight division, being that he's around 195 pounds. With all that being said, I would like to end this video with a quote by Joe Rogan that I feel encompasses martial arts and the passion behind this channel. Let obsession be your discipline. When I found something I was interested in, I didn't have to be disciplined because I was obsessed. Obsession fueled discipline, and discipline manages that obsession. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments your opinion. Do you think that Joe Rogan could have fought in the UFC? Let me know down below. And please guys, keep it positive and keep it passionate. Thanks for watching.